about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We're back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. So making headlines is a story of a mom whose 12-year-old daughter needed a heart transplant at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, but was denied because of her vaccination status. Brayton and Janine Deal adopted Adeline from China, but she was born with two heart conditions that now require a heart transplant at the age of 12. This has been reported by Fox News. While the Deals were in the process of adopting Adeline, the agency told them to pick another child because her heart was so bad she wasn't going to make it. But they continued to support her so she could stay in a foster home, and then they brought her home as an adopted child. They said the agency stopped taking the funds out of our account. So they thought she passed away, but after starting to process a second time to adopt from China, they saw that Adeline was still in the system. So they were able to take her home. She was doing really well, despite her medical challenges. When you have a baby or a small kid with heart problems, for them to make it to 12 years old is amazing. So here she is, still fighting. Adorable girl. So they say since we brought her home, she's been in and out of Cincinnati Children's Hospital, which is a good hospital, by the way. She has grown so much, but now her heart can't sustain her. She is now at the point where she needs a heart transplant. Now, according to Stephanie Stock, president of Ohio Advocates for Medical Freedom, posted a video with Janine Deal about what is happening to Adeline. Adeline is not on the transplant list. And the mom said the doctors at Cincinnati Children's were talking with us and told us that one of the requirements put on the list is to have the COVID vaccination and the flu vaccination. She said that is against everything we believe in. Now, that's interesting. The family said they asked for a religious exemption, but the hospital declined. Now, Stock claimed the hospital's policy is based on recommendations from the NIH. She feels that's discriminatory. She says, I can't think of anything more horrible than denying a child a heart transplant or a kidney because of their vaccination status. So this is tricky. All right. I mean, if your child needs a heart transplant and nobody's going to give it to her, no hospital's going to give it to her, and she could possibly die. I mean, if I was in this mom's case, I would be like, then fine, I'll just give the vaccine. And I understand it's against their beliefs and all that, but I couldn't let my beliefs cause my child to die. I would be trying to find another hospital that would work with us, but I would, when you stop and look at this and go, well, why are the doctors adamant on that? When the vaccine has been shown to, in some patients, cause myocarditis, why is the COVID vaccine a mandatory requirement? Is it that somebody who has a heart transplant is more vulnerable to COVID and COVID-related myocarditis? And the studies have shown that somebody who gets COVID severely won't be able to have any success with their transplant. Is that why? Is that what the studies are showing? Or do we not have enough studies showing that? Because, if you remember in Canada, they had to stop giving the Moderna vaccine to boys and young male adults and only give the Pfizer vaccine because of the myocarditis risk. And so I'm looking at it as a physician going, well, if there's myocarditis risk with COVID and there's myocarditis risk with the vaccine, which is worse? Many of us who have had the vaccine, we might have seen we didn't get COVID, but some of us did have side effects. I had chest pain and underarm swelling and breast swelling. And so I'm a little concerned about the inflammatory aspect of the vaccine. But I also understand you don't want a child who's dealing with heart transplant to get COVID, because COVID could cause myocarditis as well. So the studies, from what we're being told, are showing that COVID-related myocarditis is more common than vaccine-related myocarditis. But we have a child who needs a heart transplant. And we have a child that is going to have to be on immunosuppressive drugs. A lot of them. So the body doesn't reject the heart. And it's going to be very touch and go. So my guess, and I'm not saying anybody's in the right or anybody's in the wrong, but when people ask why would doctors do this when, they have the science and they know about side effects, my guess is they feel that any vaccine-related side effect may be thwarted with the immunosuppression, whereas the immunosuppression could then allow viral or pathogen-related issues to surface. So if you're immunosuppressed, you could get infections easier. You're less likely to have inflammatory reactions, but you could still get them. So I'm wondering if that's where they stand on that. But you have a lot of parents who don't want COVID vaccines. And so other people are thinking that maybe this advice is being given out because they have too many people needing organs and they want to filter out numbers. And so they want to pick and choose who gets them. And one way they could do that is, well, if people are against the vaccine, then, they aren't aligned with our thinking. And so then we're not going to give a vital organ to somebody when you have another patient who is going to be very supportive of vaccines. And, my problem with the whole conversation is when you have a parent that declines a vaccine, people already go to they're crazy or they don't want to take care of their child. And somebody needs to sit down with the parent and go, but what are your concerns? I know a lot of Democrats and liberals who are afraid of vaccines because they had a family member who had a child, or a family member that had, a very good friend of mine had Guillain-Barré syndrome, where his immune system decided to attack him. And so these are things that we kind of need to understand and be aware of. But it's going to be a shame if she can't get a heart. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. Also, if you do miss any of our shows, go to our website at drdaliah.com. So federal return to work deadlines are here. And I believe the deadline had been extended to today for those people who work for the federal government. And from what I understand, ubiquitously, everybody got the email saying that you could take the deal where you can get paid all the way through till September 30th, which is the end of the fiscal year. Don't have to come back to work. You could come back to work, whatever you want. But you will be resigning. Reply to the email, resign. And you will basically get the buyout, meaning you could go and work for another company or unemployment, whatever. Not that that's in the email, but that's what some people are inferring they could do. And I'm hearing numbers anywhere from 40 to 60,000 people took the deal. And it was a way for Trump to filter out. You know how we just talked about maybe some hospitals are trying to filter out candidates by are you vaccinated or not to shrink down the number of people to look through. Trump is probably doing the same thing. He wants to know that he has the best of the best. He has the most, hardworking, good work ethic, loyal. And so if you want a job, you come to work. You're not going to get a paycheck and all the benefits if you're at home. And if you don't want to, rather than us firing you, you could resign. But you are going to be required to come back to work. Now, you would think it would be simpler than that, but no, there's apparently a lot of lawsuits now. And unions. So the largest federal government employee union is now suing the Trump administration to block its buyouts for workers. They call the offer an arbitrary, unlawful, short-fused ultimatum, which workers may not be able to enforce. The American Federation of Government Employees suit against the Office of Personnel Management said the agency violated the Administrative Procedures Act in swiftly rolling out an offer that they do not currently have the funds to back and have offered conflicting guidance about how it's structured. Well, if these people are already on the payroll, they're not necessarily giving them the money up front. This is, you'll still be on the payroll, but you're cut off September 30th. So they say the fork directive is arbitrary and capricious. It fails to consider possible adverse consequences, provide to millions of employees, offers conflicting information about the rights and obligations if they accept the offer, runs counter to longstanding rules and requirements for federal employees. It's contrary, they say, to recent practices of government restructuring, ignores history and practices around effective workplace reduction, sets an arbitrary short deadline, and is a pretext for removing and replacing government workers on an ideological basis. So here's my thing with it. Having a lot of you reach out to me and family members who work for the government, the deadline was pretty quick. A lot of people needed some time to think. And the one issue I had, I totally get it. And it does make sense. If you're going to be getting full salary, if you're getting full benefits, you need to come to work. And that's just kind of how it used to always run. I know with COVID, we got to play around with getting to stay home and watch Netflix and sleeping in. But no, the real world, you have to go in and work. Not to mention, you have all these other people that have had to go into work and clock in going, well, why the hell am I doing this? I could do a stay-at-home job. So I get why this needed to be done. But I do have some criticisms. A big criticism I had is you do have a lot of individuals who want to work for the government, will come back to work, but they're looking at what's happening in terms of all the cuts. And they're like, but what if I get cut March 3rd? So I don't take the deal. And then they decide to eliminate my department anyway. And now I did it. So you're having people say, maybe I should take the deal because I'm going to lose my job anyway. And I don't like that unsteadiness. I don't like that anxiety. I want there to be a very strong foundation. And I think just, I understand he wanted to do the buyout and all that, but I think it could have been simpler saying you come to work. If you don't come to work, you don't get paid. You need to clock in. You need to clock out. In order for you to clock in, you got to clock in on site. You can't have your friend clock you in. You have to clock in with your employee number. You can't access this from home. And you show up to work. If you don't want to show up to work, give your 2 weeks notice. So the buyout is nice. It's juicy. But now it's causing a lot more anxiety because people are saying, well, wait a second, I might lose my job anyway. So if I'm going to lose my job anyway, I might as well take the money and run. Or be able to look for another job while on payroll through September 30th. And so that's making people a little concerned. Now, Trump had already said the Department of Education might be overhauled. So if you work for the Department of Education, your job might not be, or your job might be at risk. If you work for U.S. Aid, when that was a new one, that was, if you work for a government agency where there's a lot of wasteful spending and corruption, yeah, your job is probably going to be at risk, even if you're innocent. Now, it would be nice if there could be a vocational training for people to switch departments or another option. If you're a federal worker and you want to work for the government and you want to work on site, I want those people to still be able to work. But the federal government jobs have now gotten a stereotype and a characteristic of you can't get fired. Once you're in, you're in. And you hear these jokes in departments where if somebody sucks at their job, because you can't fire them, you actually promote them to a different department just to get them the hell out of your department. Well, come on. I mean, if you're going to work for the government and it's going to be a very cush job and some of the best benefits out there and all these days off, because the federal government gets a lot of days off, then you need to earn it. And you need to be worthy, and you need to. Political affiliation. I don't think you have to. I think we're going to be in some perilous waters where you only hire Republicans or you only hire Democrats. Because then every 4 years people are losing their job. Now I do understand that Trump wants to make sure people are loyal and don't undermine him. He's been shot at. He wants to make sure that whoever's in the Secret Service is going to do their job. We still have a lot of questions on who the hell, was able to outsmart the Secret Service to be able to fire at President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Were there other countries involved? Was Iran behind it? What's going on? And so he needs transparency and he needs to know. And he also has to make sure that people aren't corrupt and spending money that shouldn't. And as I said, I really can't stand this. Okay, the budget's coming up, so everybody spend or we lose it. If you don't spend it, we lose it. So spend. That has to stop. Turn it into an incentive where everybody gets a percentage bonus. Where if they do save the government money, they get some of that in their pocket. But they have to, and as well as doing a good job and doing their work. So seeing that the lawsuit says that the government is violating the Anti-Deficiency Act, which bars the government from spending beyond what is dictated in its budget, I'm a little confused because they're not spending more. They're just, the people are already on the payroll. And in fact, they're going to be under budget because if people quit, then they're going to have extra money to hire. So, I understand why he's doing it. I think the buyout complicated it. I think it would have been much simpler where he says, sorry, you have to show up to work. Now, there are labor unions that have quickly put in over the past few years right to work at home. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works in the courts and all that. And listen, you have to take care of a family member. You're doing your work. I work from home. Not everybody who works from home is slacking, but a lot of people do. And when we see, issues like we are seeing with government efficiency, it's no shock that your employer is going to say, hands on deck. And, I'll even tell patients, look, I know I'm seeing you remotely, but you need a doctor to examine you in person. I work for a remote company. I think they do a great service for people, but a lot of things still need to be hands on. And if I can't do hands-on, you need to see somebody who can. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be contentious. Like I said, the one issue I had is because there's that buyout, people are thinking they need to quit anyway to take advantage of it. I'd rather it be simpler. Like, you don't come to work. You have a choice. You either come to the office and clock in, or you don't get paid. But because of the buyout, which is nice and cush, it's causing extra issues. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Sophia paused before the door. It read, Department of Bidigital Convergence. Just inside was a new world, a better world, the one of everlasting life, of no pain, of no loss, of no problem. She entered the chamber and her surroundings changed. She saw around her an infinite field of waving golden grain surmounted by cloudless blue sky. The AI voice whispered gently in her mind, Welcome to the singularity. Not perceiving the nightmare, her eyes had already been consumed and the rest of her body was dissolving as the bots digested her flesh. Could a nightmare vision like this be an outcome of the much-hyped transhumanist technological singularity? Enter the world of the future as illuminated by the experience of the past in Endgame, the new book by Dennis Barrett, the publisher of the New American Magazine, and find out how the disastrous COVID pandemic response fits with the technocratic elite's thirst to create a transhumanist utopia.
You can find Endgame the book at shopjbs.org or Amazon and Audible.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. January, Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. We're in February. It's Heart Awareness Month. And these awareness months are lovely. They're nice. But a lot of you guys are listening to the radio or watching, the advertisements, and you're like, I can't get my family member to go get checked. I could tell them, look, it's American Heart Month, but they're not going to go. And so let's be a little bit more realistic and practical about what we should be doing. And I get it. I had a father who did not like going to the doctor. Now, he didn't have insurance, he didn't have money, and I offered to pay. He just didn't want to go. I wanted him to take his statin, Lipitor, for high cholesterol. And he's like, no, it's going to hurt my liver. It'll hurt my liver. And I go, you're going to have the healthiest liver in the graveyard, in the cemetery. You could have a heart attack, and then he goes, well, then it's quick. I want it quick. I don't want to be in the hospital. It'll be quick. And I'm like, but what if you have a stroke? That won't be quick. You'll be paralyzed and, leave me alone. Well, he ends up having a heart attack. It was quick the way he wanted to, but he died at the age of 62. And so I get having stubborn family members. I get that. And so we need to be giving you guys practical advice. Most of the advice you're getting is, what are your risk factors? So for this month, what are your risk factors for heart disease? Male over 40, female over 50. If you smoke, drink a lot of alcohol, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, family history of heart attack, previous heart issues, short stature. There's a lot of things and so you're like, okay, I know I have risk factors. Okay, well, are you going to go? Now what? So what you have to do psychologically, it's amazing how much psychology and marketing we have to know in medicine and know as family members. You got to know what makes your audience tick. All right. So what makes me go? I don't like to go to the doctor either. I love seeing the doctors and all that, but I don't like to get undressed and I don't like to get the pap smears and I don't like to get the colonoscopy. Well, because if you really want to know what gets me, what I thrive on is being able to plan and having some control. I'm a busy person. I'm a workaholic. The last thing I want is to be getting ready to fly to New York or fly somewhere or do what I need to do. And then all of a sudden, sorry, you need to be in the hospital. And so every time I try to think of blowing something off, I'm like, you know what? I really don't have time for chemo. I don't have time for that. Let me go and be proactive. And so if you have a family member that's kind of like that, you could say, look, you want to do a lot of things in retirement, right? You want to travel. You want to do things. Are you going to want to have to be stopped or laid up because you have a heart attack? So why don't you prevent the heart attack and go in and get seen? Well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Okay. And you might have to be doing some tough love. I've had family members where I had to basically say, well, then you're done. I'm not, supporting you. I'm not, no. Now, if you're not going to take care of yourself, I'm out. I've had to be strong like that. That's not ideal. I'd like, you get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar, but sometimes you have to do tough love. But, when you have a family member that, you really can't necessarily, the no sex. If I ever told my husband the no sex, they'd be like, whew. So I can't do that. I'd have to threaten sex. I'll have sex with you. No, love, please. God, no. So, I convince him by one, when somebody does, a family member gets sick, I explain it to them. We have a family member who's losing their eyesight at a rapid rate. Okay, you better go in and get your eyes checked. All right, because when medical things happen, it's always inopportune. Now, they might say, I'm going to be fine. That's not going to happen to me. I'm not going to get the heart attack. Every 40 seconds, somebody's getting a heart attack. You have risk factors for heart disease. The majority of us have risk factors for heart disease. Once we hit a certain age, the heart eventually stops. It just, is it going to be a heart attack like my father had, a widowmaker at the age of 62? Or is it going to be something that will happen in your sleep when you're 105? You don't know. But when bad things happen, they happen. And then your life stops. Your family member's life stopped. So another thing you could draw on is, let's say they love their kids. Okay, do you really want your kids to have to take care of you if you have a stroke? Do you really want your kid? And what a lot of people will say is, hey, if I get the cancer or if I get the stroke, don't save me. Let me go. I always hear that from patients. I go, really? Which, let's say in 5 minutes, are you really ready to just say I'm done? If today was your last day to live, really? Well, that's not practical. I go, it's not practical to wait until you have stage 4 cancer. My father said the same thing. I don't want scope in my, no, I don't want anything up my, just let me die. No, really, get the, he never did get the colonoscopy. I personally thought he was starting colon cancer, but he died of a heart attack before it happened. So then well, what about your family? And, one thing you could do is you don't have to go right at them with, okay, it's heart month, you need to screen your heart. What you might want to do is be a little bit more sly. Let the conversation start on another topic. So let the conversation start by, your grandkid. He's now 4. When do you want to start taking him fishing? I want as soon as possible. I go, I think so too. Should we start planning some fishing trips? Should we start planning? I want you to teach your kid how to fish. I want to teach your kid how to, your grandparents. You want to be involved in their lives. Oh, I can't wait for this to happen. Now, by the way, have you gotten all this stuff checked? Have you? I mean, see, you could kind of sneak it in. Another thing you could also do is say, I don't want to go myself. I need you to come with me. I'll feel better knowing you're doing it too. Like I said, with weight loss, it's really hard to tell your spouse they need to lose some weight. But when you say, I want us both healthy, let's both go for walks. Let's both get rid of the cookies. Let's both get rid of the, and then you can make it happen. So it is going to take some sort of, manipulation. Manipulation happens. But then, it's a harder job now. This used to not be so hard because you used to have to go to the doctor. So somebody's like, oh, I want my Viagra. Well, you used to have to go into the doctor to get that Viagra. And you could tell the doctor, look, I know with HIPAA, you can't tell me what's going on with my husband, but I'm telling you right now, he's got a family history of heart disease and colon cancer. Can you get on his butt about that? And family members will call me all the time. And I'm like, look, I've come to find out that X, Y, and Z. Is that true? Yeah. I go, you really need your screening. And then put it on me. Let me be the bad guy. And if they say, I don't want him to know that I told you, I go, not a problem. I have to already bring up the screenings. Gosh, when people would come into the office, I would be on top of them for melanomas, for the prostate cancer, their colon cancer, the breast cancer, the cervical cancer. We left no stone unturned. And they got their screenings done. Now, everybody's just using online, getting their medicines online. And so it's harder. And now it's on you. So you have a family member that's getting treated for their blood pressure over the phone, and they're not going in and getting their heart checked. What do you do? So, you're going to have some hard talks. The other thing, too, is realize you might not be successful with the first discussion. But if there's something that needs to be said, say it. If you're like, look, you have the risk factors for a heart attack, and I think you're going to be at risk for one. And I don't want you next year or 2 months from now having a heart attack and I'm being widowed, or the kids having to take care of you, or us having medical bills up the yin-yang. So if there's something you can do to prevent it and get screened, do it the flip now. I mean, if they divorce you over that, they don't deserve you. Now, they might say, oh, leave me alone, leave me alone. All right, leave them alone for a day or two. But they'll be thinking. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So there are some reports that investigators are looking at Ozempic and these other weight loss drugs in relation to reports of blindness. And so they're investigating. There's apparently 9 people who have reported vision loss as a result of using their GLP agonist drugs, semaglutide, tirzepatide. And this is something that I remember hearing a little bit about, and I was like, I don't think they have enough to go on yet. And so it wasn't a big headline. And now we're starting to see some headlines. So let me share some of this with you. We don't know why this is happening, but you do need to be aware, especially since everybody and their mother seems to be on these drugs right now. So this is being reported by multiple outlets. This one I'm going to be reading from is from Daily Mail because I like their font. So one woman injected 1 dose of semaglutide for her diabetes. I guess 1 dose, which is Ozempic. I don't know if it was Ozempic brand or if it was a compound, but she woke up the next morning blind in her left eye. So she didn't take the medication for a couple months. Her diabetes was getting worse. So she restarted it, and then she lost vision in her right eye. There was another woman who was taking semaglutide for a year, woke up one morning with a painless shadow over her left eye. Testing revealed that blood vessels in her retina became damaged. One suffered bleeding in his left eye after taking tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro, for a year. Doctors told him to keep taking the drug due to lack of evidence linking his condition, that the eye issue, to the weight loss shots. Now, what could be going on? So they think there might be an issue. The study was in JAMA Ophthalmology, and they think that maybe what's happening is the rapid, I guess, drop in blood sugar might be affecting the eyes. I don't know if I'm convinced that's it, because when you do insulin and a fast-acting insulin, your blood sugar drops rapidly. So the first thing I know somebody's going to say is, but Dr. Daliah, if these were diabetics, people with diabetes, they're going to be at risk for blindness anyway. You got a point. We do know that eye issues and retinopathy can happen. Usually it's slower, but I have seen people with all of a sudden acute vision loss. Absolutely. It can happen. So this all could be coincidental, but I still think somebody needs to study it. And these medications are a little bit more unique than insulin or the sulfonylureas, which kind of tickle the pancreas to shoot out extra insulin, or the metformin, which helps with insulin resistance. These GLP-1 agonists work on hormones, and they increase satiety, they slow down digestion. Not sure what the mechanism would be for it to affect the eyes, but if it is a side effect, people need to know about it. And why I'm concerned is we have non-diabetics using these medications now for weight loss. And mind you, there's a lot of studies saying, wow, when they lose the weight, they're making themselves healthier. Lower heart risk, lower stroke risk, cancer risk. It sounds like the panacea of good health. Nobody's talking about, well, what happens when you rebound? What happens when you go off the medication? Should you be having your pancreas checked while on it? Because side effects include pancreatitis. And if pancreatitis or chronic pancreas inflammation could lead to pancreatic cancer, should we be screened more? If you are on Ozempic or Wegovy or Mounjaro or Zepbound, Wegovy and Zepbound are the weight loss counterparts, should you be having your eyes checked? Should you be screened before you go on these medications? Now, when people say, Dr. Daliah, the media is going crazy with these side effects, the medicines have been around for years. Remember, these medicines were around in different patient groups and being dosed differently. So these medications have been around for a while, which means we do have nice data sets on these medications. That's how we knew they caused weight loss. But they were used in people with diabetes. Most people with diabetes were getting their regular eye checks. A lot of people don't do that anymore, I'm hearing. You got to get your eyes screened. So they would be getting their eyes screened. At the first sign of retinopathy, they would get treatment. Retinopathy is issues with the retina, the back of the eye, that helps focus your vision. That when you're nearsighted and farsighted, the image will either go beyond the retina and look blurry. I don't know if you guys remember your optics in physics, or the image will be too close to the retina. So if this is your retina, if the image is here, it's going to be blurry. If the image ends up projecting out here, it's going to be blurry. So you use glasses to refract that and make sure it hits the retina. But if your retina has abnormal blood vessels and other issues, or Drusen and macular degeneration, you're going to have vision issues. And so if somebody was on these medications for diabetes, they were titrated slowly to the level they needed. They were on the lowest amount they needed. Remember, it's an expensive drug. They were seeing the eye doctor. They were already being watched for GI issues. And so it was a little different than these stars or these people wanting to be in bikini body shape form going, I'm going to microdose. I'm going to just go from 0.25 to 1 because I really need to lose this weight fast. Nobody's patient. Well, you might be screwing around with something that you shouldn't be. Now, it looks like in these patients, some of them had diabetes. And again, to say it was related to the medication, it takes a lot of investigation to be able to say there's a relationship with that. But still, if there's 9 cases. Now, last year, the American Academy of Ophthalmology issued a press release urging patients who had experienced vision loss while taking semaglutide to stop taking the drug and contact the doctor. Now, the Academy did not say to stop those drugs altogether, but they did say if you're having vision issues to stop. Now, the U.S. isn't the only country to notice issues. Apparently, in Denmark, Ozempic maker Novo Nordisk, that's where, by the way, Novo Nordisk is a Denmark pharmaceutical company. They're investigating the links between that as well. So it's not just, an issue here. So the average age of the patient of these 9 adults in this case report were 57 years old. The majority were women. The patients were in Utah, Minnesota, New York, West Virginia, and Ohio. They were diagnosed with non-arteritic ischemic anterior optic neuropathy, a condition where blood flow to the optic nerve got blocked. The optic nerve transmits visual information to the retina. And it can cause sudden vision loss. It occurs in 6,000 Americans every year. The most common is with people with diabetes, high blood pressure, sleep apnea. One woman in her 50s developed this after her very first semaglutide injection. Now one woman stopped taking semaglutide and her insulin, and the vision went back to normal. But you see, she also stopped her insulin. So that's why they're thinking maybe this is a decrease in blood sugar that might be too rapid. But I'm sorry, if you have diabetes and you have high blood sugar, sometimes we do have to rapidly bring down your blood sugar. But it could also be that these medications are inflammatory, and they are causing inflammation around the eye. I mean, we have these compounds, and we don't know what the hell happens when you mix a body that is beautifully engineered. And thank you, I think I'm beautifully engineered. And you make something in a lab, and you decide to put the two together, and you think you've studied it for all unintended consequences. And it's been studied in diabetes, and a lot of people with diabetes do have vision issues. Now, all of a sudden, we throw it into the whole population. Where teenagers, everybody and their mother was trying to get on this stuff. We do need to kind of pump the brakes. So I would have, one, get your eyes screened. You should be getting your eyes screened. Talk to your eye doctor. They're the ones that are going to get some of the latest and the greatest of the information. Now, they might say, look, we need you to lose weight because if you do get high blood pressure and diabetes, that's worse for your eyes. But nobody's going to want sudden eye loss or vision loss. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.